If you buy a bag that has that stamp on it, you cannot get this bag sparred by Hermes. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to film 5 tips that you guys should know when it comes to buying Hermes bags in the resale market. Before I dive into this video, if you are new to my channel and you love luxury, especially Hermes, then I would love if you would hit the subscribe button below and also the bell so you can be notified when I upload new videos, which is twice a week on a Wednesday and on a weekend US time. So let's dive right into the content of this video. Just to kind of summarize, the idea that I had for this was to kind of explain some key points when it comes to shopping pre-loved, shopping resale. And this actually came about because I had a friend of mine who was asking me about a particular stamp that was on the bag, and they didn't know the details of this stamp. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to sit down, I'm just going to run through 5 things that you probably didn't know about Hermes and are quite important when it comes to shopping pre-loved and on the resale market. A lot of this is surrounding when you are looking to buy a bag, some things that you really need to take a note on and to decide essentially whether or not the purchase is going to be good for you, whether or not you're going to be comfortable with it. So there is only 5 points. This is not going to go into depth, into detail when it comes to shopping pre-loved and resale and that sort of thing. I feel as though with a lot of my videos, I do cover bits and pieces of this. If you wanted me to do like a dedicated video, then I can. Ask me questions down below and I can kind of put it into a video for you guys, but otherwise this is just going to be the 5 tips that I can recommend for you. And we're going to start off with particular stamps that you might find on Hermes bags, and the first one is the S stamp. Now this is going to be in a very specific spot. The S stamp, if you are going to buy a bag and you see that there is a imprinted S, so this is actually heat stamped into the leather. If you see a S anywhere around here, so anywhere around this part here near that lock area, and it's not going to be a colored stamp, it's just going to be an S that's pushed into the leather. I'm going to include a picture on the screen, of course, so you can see what I'm saying. That S, and please take note, it has to be around this area, it has to be around here. Okay, if it's anywhere else, then that's probably an artisan stamp or a date code. Okay, if you see the S that is anywhere near this lock here, then that actually is a staff sale stamp. Okay, now this is actually very important because the staff sale stamp means that Hermes has sold that particular bag to a staff member at a staff discount. So they have bought the bag for less. It is not designed to be resold. So if someone is selling a bag with the S stamp on it, of course, you know, Hermes can't stop them, they can't be prosecuted, nothing like that, okay? But it is not intended for resale. So if you go ahead and buy a bag that has that S stamp up here, the S that's been imprinted into the leather, if you buy a bag that has that stamp on it, you cannot get this bag sparred by Hermes. Hermes will not touch it, they will not fix it for you. So if you're looking to buy a bag and it has that S stamp on it, I would advise to buy on the so if you're looking at a bag and it does have that S stamp on it, I would personally advise to potentially avoid buying it if you think that you will be wanting to do repairs on the bag. If you're okay with, say, sending your bag off to a third party for repairs and that sort of thing, then buying a bag with an S stamp is fine. Usually they are sold for a much lesser price because of the fact that they have that S stamp. But Hermes won't touch the bag, okay? You are not allowed to, say, go and buy a bag with the S stamp and then take it to Hermes for a spa, for any kind of hardware replacements, anything like that. They're not going to touch it because technically you shouldn't be owning that bag. And if you do have the bag, they want the proof that you were the actual person that Hermes sold it to, that you were the staff member that got the discount on that bag. Staff sale bags, I'm not 100% sure how they work. I'm only trying to vaguely remember from what my sales associate once told me, like my first sales associate. And she said to me that for them to buy a bag at discount, the bag had to be sitting there on the shelf for, I think it was at least 3 months. That would mean that the bag wasn't sold to anyone. It's sitting there in the inventory at Hermes and it's never moved, never been sold, and the staff member can then buy it. That's how I believe that it works. There's probably more complexity to it, I'm very sure, but from what I remember from memory, it had to be like in the back shelf for 3 months and never sold, obviously, if it's still sitting there for 3 months. So it had like a time ticking on it, and then the staff member could buy it at a discount, and it would be heat pressed with the S stamp to signify that it was sold to a staff member at a discount. So I would advise not to buy bags with the S stamp, just because there is that chance that even though you might be happy for a third party to do color touch-ups on it, or like sparring, conditioning and that sort of thing, what if something goes wrong with the hardware? What if, like, say for example, this lock completely breaks or something, which is unknown, but you just never know what kind of circumstance you might find yourself in, who knows. But like, say that breaks or whatever, say something like one of the handles you know, come off, I don't know, not that this sort of happens, but just in case there is some kind of circumstance that you're in where it's the bag has had quite a beating for some reason, Hermes won't replace these parts for you. So they're not going to change the lock for you, they're not going to change the handle, they're not going to do any of that sort of stuff for you, because technically you weren't supposed to have this bag. It wasn't for you, it's not intended for resale when the staff member buys it at a discount. So I do advise that, yeah, perhaps don't buy bags with the S stamp unless you're okay with knowing that you'll have to use third-party places to do any repairs, sparring and that sort of thing. So point number 2 is the shooting star stamp, and the shooting star literally looks like a shooting star, and you will find it just next to the Hermes Paris made in France. So it'll be a shooting star with a color to it. So say this is in silver, you will see the shooting star next to it in also silver as well, kind of similar to the horseshoe stamp, but it's an actual shooting star. And the shooting star actually means that this bag was made by an artisan for him or herself. So the artisan has made the bag for themselves, for them to own, for them to use. And again, this is going to be a case of what's similar to the staff sale one, is that it is not intended for resale. Because if an Hermes artisan makes the bag for himself or herself and they purchase it, I'm not quite sure if I assume that they'd have to pay for it. Surely they'd have to pay for it. But they'd obviously get a discount for it, I'd say, because they're an artisan. But yeah, they make their own bag, they get to put the shooting star stamp on it, means that it's a bag made by the artisan for themselves, and these aren't intended for resale as well. So if you go ahead and buy a bag that has the shooting star stamp, it's going to be the same situation as the S stamp for staff sale. You can't get it sparred at the Hermes boutique, you can't get parts replaced, you can't get hardware replaced, that sort of thing. You'd have to stay with a third party repairer and restorer. So there are some great third-party repairer restorers. I personally have used before Leather Surgeons. They're based in the US. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to use perhaps an Australian-based you know, bag spa sort of thing. So those two stamps that I mentioned, those are the key points that you really should be aware if you are shopping in the pre-loved resale market. If they have the S stamp or the shooting star up here, then bear that in mind, that you aren't going to get any help from Hermes when it comes to restore, repairing, anything like that. Pretty much probably wouldn't even want to take one of those bags to the boutique and let them see that, because you're not supposed to have them. They're not going to confiscate it, of course. They're not going to do anything like that, but it's just taboo. Like they'll probably say, you know, how did you get that? So it's best not to perhaps take those bags to the boutique unless, you know, you have a good relationship with your sales associate. They might be totally cool with it. You know what, some sales associate probably don't even know. They probably ask you a question and get you to explain it to them if they see it. Maybe not the S stamp, because I think that the most sales associates will know about the S stamp, but perhaps a shooting star would be a topic of conversation. I think that, you know, it would be nice from a collecting point of view to have a bag that had the shooting star on it, because the artisan made it for themselves and they would have been the one that used it. So I think that that's quite nice when it comes to a history kind of point of view. I think it would be nice to own a bag that had the shooting star on it. I don't think I'd be too fussed about owning a bag with the S stamp for staff sale, but from a collecting point of view, the shooting star stamp does sound quite nice, because you'd be owning the bag that the artisan made himself and him or herself, and they used it as well. So it have a nice rich history and heritage to it. But you just have to bear that in mind, that you won't be able to take it to Hermes for any kind of hardware changing, any kind of repairs, sparring, and that sort of thing. It'll all have to be done with third party. Third party doesn't have access to any of these like hardwares that Hermes has. It's obviously their hardware, so just bear that in mind, especially with the hardware. If something goes wrong, a third party probably won't. They could, you know, help you out, but it's just not going to be the same hardware that Hermes has. Moving on to my third point, which is still on the topic of Hermes Spa, and I wanted to let you guys know, if you haven't already watched any of my other videos, because I have spoken about this before, but Hermes does not spa the inside of your bag. Yeah, unfortunately they don't do the inside. They will do the outside of your bag, so no problems there, but the inside they don't spa it. So what I do recommend, that if you are shopping Preloved, if you do happen to buy a bag that is in fantastic condition on the inside, got no stain marks or anything, go ahead and get one of these 7 Rue Paradis inserts. They are the only inserts that I recommend for your Hermes bags that actually are safe for your bag and have organization compartments in there. There's multiple pockets. I've also got an insert for the Birkin 30, and they are fantastic. They really help out when it comes to organization, but also with the structure of the bag and then protecting the inside of your bag. I do have a coupon code for them. Also, just to note, their inserts are specifically made for the shape of your bag. So they have Kelly inserts for the Return and then for the Cellier, and there will be different shapes for the Cellier as to what they would be for the Return. So the Return has a slightly different edge to it than what the Cellier has with the 7 Rue Paradis inserts. So they fit nice and snug inside your bags, just absolutely perfectly. They fit perfect, nice and snug. So yeah, my coupon code with them is POF30, and you get €30 off if you're just after 1 insert. But if you are after 2, you can use the code POF70, so then you get €70 off. So it is very important that when you do buy bags in the resale market, if they are great condition on the inside, just try to protect them from the get-go with one of these 7 RP inserts. There is the Hermes 4B as well, but the Hermes 4B doesn't have like any organizational to it. It's got no pockets, nothing like that. It's just a canvas drawstring bag, and it's quite expensive. It is more expensive than these inserts. 7 Rue Paradis also actually ship duties and taxes included, so you don't have to pay any duties and taxes when you receive their inserts, which is good. So it is tax-free. Also, if you do happen to buy a bag in the resale market that does have pen marks, stains and whatnot, obviously, like I said, Hermes is not going to spa it for you, but there are alternatives, like I mentioned before, with third-party repairers that can do work for you and potentially clean it up. Obviously, that's personal choice if you want to, you know, use a third-party repairer to do the inside of the bag. You know, if you're not comfortable with it, just try to buy a bag that is still looking good on the inside. Otherwise, you know, even if it's got pen marks, you can just go and put in the insert and cover it up, so then you're not bothered by it, you're not seeing those pen marks, and also it doesn't get any worse, you know, with your own things that you put inside the bag, because these inserts are obviously organizational, but they're very protective as well of the inside too. And then again, they're also fantastic for helping with the shape of the bag. This is exactly how I store my Kelly, with the insert inside. It never comes out of the bag. So when I do hopefully add more Birkins and Kellys to my collection, I'll be getting a 7 Rue Paradis insert for each of the bags, just by personal choice, because I do like the fact of how they help with the storage of the bag. Now let's move on to the fourth point. And the fourth point is very important when it comes to buying Preloved and in the resale market: cracked leather. Now, cracked leather is like death. It's death to the bag. They can actually seal the crack with like a sealant, but it doesn't fix the crack. The line is still going to be there. It will never disappear. So you still see a crack somewhat, but it'll just have like a sealant inside to stop the crack from getting any worse. But it is like death to a leather because of the fact that it is not refurbishable. You can't actually fix it. You can't get rid of the crack. It's still actually going to be there. And this is particularly on box leather and chamonix. I think that I'm saying chamonix wrong. I know I am. Someone's corrected me, but I've totally forgotten it. But those leathers, unfortunately, are prone to cracks. Vintage ones, even current ones, will be prone to cracks with the incorrect storage. So if you're not storing these bags right, then they will get cracks. It's got a lot to do with humidity and that sort of thing. But yeah, if you are shopping in the resale market and you are looking at a boxcar for chamonix bag, be very careful to make sure the bag doesn't have any cracks. Look at the images, look at the description, ask the seller, does it have any cracks? Because if there is any cracks in the bag, you just have to bear that in mind, that, you know, the crack is never going to be fixed. It's still going to be there. The only thing you can do is get it sealed. I'm not even sure if Hermes will do the sealing of the crack for you. I think that they do. I think I have seen before a refurbed, I think it was a Constance 23 vintage in chamonix. If I can find the image, I'll put it up, but I think it was very old that I did see this picture. It was quite a long time ago. And I think Hermes actually did the spa on it, and they just sealed up those cracks like with the leather sealer. and that was the best that they could do, but the cracks were still there, unfortunately. My final point, which is more on the side of advice, and I wanted to let you guys know that if you are shopping pre-loved and in the resale market, that at the moment, because mini bags are still going strong, you can actually get some really good deals on the Birkin 35 and the Kelly 35. And I predict that big bags are going to come back. They will come back. I feel like, yes, mini bags are still going strong right now, but I don't feel as though it will be forever. I feel like there will eventually be a resurgence of big bags. So if you do like a bigger bag, or if you do like to be on top of the trends and be ahead of the trends, then now is probably the time to be looking at the Birkin 35 and the Kelly 35 while you can get these great deals pre-loved and in the resale market. I've noticed that the Kelly 32 has started to creep up a bit in price because big bags are sort of starting to come back. But yeah, Birkin 35 is still a really great deal pre-loved. So is the Kelly 35 as well. So if you do like bigger bags, I definitely recommend to check those bags out, because it is only a matter of time before they start to climb up in price as bigger bags get more and more, you know, popular, more and more support behind them. I will put in the description bar some deals that I have found for the Birkin 35 or Kelly 35 in the pre-love market, like Investia Collective and Fashion File and those sort of thing. I'll put them in the description bar down below. I'm only going to link ones that are actually below retail, because that's the whole point that I wanted to make, is that obviously we know that scoring Hermes bags is quite difficult. It is not easy to score one in the boutique, but if you're wanting to get a steal and pay below retail and not have to play the game as well with Hermes, then yeah, definitely go ahead and check out those links below for those bigger size bags. Personally, for me, I want to get a Kelly 32. That was actually in my wish list for this year, for 2020. It may not happen this year because I feel as though there might be an Hermes price increase early next year, and it may potentially be a big one. So I think that I'm going to try and get the Kelly 32 perhaps maybe at the beginning of next year. And this year I just want to focus on trying to get the wish list bags that are going to be very much so affected by the price increase, and that's like the Kelly 28, Kelly 25, Birkin 25, those sorts of bags. But yeah, definitely check out the description bar for those deals that I have found. But that is it. Those are the 5 points that I wanted to let you guys know when it comes to shopping pre-loved and resale for Hermes bags. I think that it's actually very important when it comes to those first two key points when it comes to those stamps, because this is something that people do not talk about. And like I said, I had a friend asking me about that S stamp, and they had no idea that Hermes would not spar the bag with the S stamp on it because it was a staff sale. So yeah, hopefully you guys found this very useful and you found out some new information when it comes to Hermes. But yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.